I've heard of this place called Hermanus. I just didn't get context of how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
The people seem to be the friendliest people in South Africa, and I'm so privileged to be sitting next to one of those friendliest people. How did you discover this place, Luzelke? Because I mean, wow,
Yeah.
we've done so many interviews, but I don't think I've had an outside interview before, when nature is sort of like around you. And so, how do you live here? You get to call this home. How does that come about? Like how?
I have been so privileged that I was, the kid on the beach here, and then I was so privileged that I could actually find my first. I always go from the back. What's my goal? And I work back. So
Backwards.
I want to retire in Hermanus. So get as close to Hermanus as you can before that.
You know, when I got here, I realized that I need to redefine my entire existence. I can't wait until 60 to come live here. So I need to also
Go-
fast track
Yes, exactly.
coming here now
Or
before
make a
end of
plan.
2022 and make a plan in terms of how does my wife and I move here, because this is absolutely
I'll give you some
breathtaking.
tips,
It's
yeah.
like I need the tips from you. But anyway, this is supposed to be a very formal engagement where we're interviewing you. And I realize now that I'm speaking to you that I actually haven't even done an introduction about what is all of this about. So if I can do that right now, that'll be awesome. Hi, everyone. Obi Malope here from iAfrica Media, the biggest media platform for all things eyecare on the African continent. Today, we're sitting with how do I say it? One of the most interesting people that you could ever meet. Interesting in the sense that she wears many hats. She has experienced a lot. She has taken risks more than normal. She has used her faith to progress in life. Her faith is at the cornerstone of everything that she does. She's got a big growing family, very diverse in her thinking and her approach. And that is none other than Luzelke Van Heerden. How are you? Or Van Heerden. I got it wrong. But yeah, Van Heerden.
Very
How are
good,
you?
Toby. I'm so well. Thank you so much for being with us in the beautiful Hermanus. We are so privileged to have Obi. We're really, really so humbled that you take the time to come and visit us.
Look, you have to go where excellence is. Anyone in the eye care industry that steps out of their comfort zone, who has tried multiple things, pursued different avenues of that are available within the eye care industry, as iAfrica Media, we will go to those people. And Hermanus seems to be one of the most beautiful places here in South Africa. And so it is an honor and it's a privilege to be representing iAfrica Media, to come and sit down and talk to you about eye care, optometry, your journey, and so forth. For the people that are watching in Ghana, Mauritius, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, let's forget about the camera. But do you mind introducing yourself to the audience in terms of who you are, where you're from, and how did you end up in eye care?
Okay, so Obi, I've had people that know me from school know that I'm very enthusiastic about things that really draws my attention. So it can be various things that draw my attention. For instance, I could do ballet, and if I liked ballet, I did my best in ballet. And
Okay.
if I found something else that I really liked, I did my best and tried to be the best that I could be, and my best version of me in that. And what happened with optometry and how I got to the place where I'm at now, it was a combination of factors, but all of us start to think, what am I going to do after school? I really already want to have a plan, like what am I going to do? And it started by me going to an optometrist with my mom.
Okay.
And I had my first eye test. I think I can't remember, something was wrong with my eye. It wasn't like a big visual problem, and I got my first pair of prescription sunglasses just to protect my eyes, and I felt like that pair of sunglasses I took everywhere, and I tried to explain to everyone what was going on. And the next day at school, I had friends that was really also, they understood my humor and they understood my personality. So I was going, excuse my Afrikaans, I'm translating as I go.
Yeah, that's all good, that's
Obi
all
knows
good.
the clock is ticking up here.
It's all good, it's all good.
I went back to school the next day and I was like, okay. So for instance, my friend Anari or Nerina was like, are you seeing better with lens 1? or lens 2, and I gave that specific tone that I got that day. Better 1 or 2, and they said, "Don't joke, you are gonna end up as an optometrist." And there's really power in your words, but it also made me think of what do I want in my future. And I remember starting the first day of university at Koffsies, and they also ask you, why are you here? Why did you choose optometry? And I think it goes back to I could find something that draws my attention to various aspects that I like. I like business studies. I like economics and just financial the financial direction. But I also have a great passion for health.
Okay.
And I could combine health with business. But the great thing was that I like physics and I like mathematics, and also to incorporate that in my in part of my journey and my profession. Was just something that really seemed fitted from what I knew was available to go into eye care. I think I had a slight limitation on what the total knowledge of what the eye care industry can offer you.
Okay.
But I'm so grateful that I got to the place where I started to research about optometry and where the schools are for that, and the rest is history. I also just a thing that I reference a lot now is that I remember the place where in grade 10 you have to write, where do you see yourself in 10 years time?
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote that in 10 years time I would like to have a optometry practice that's built up, that serves the community.
Wow.
And I would like to have a husband and kids, and the Lord has really just been faithful to implement my dreams there.
So you were very clear from an early age in terms of what future you would like and what it will take for you to get to that future or to have that future. In you then going through optometry school and being in practice, working in different optometric environments, what's the one thing then when you got into practice that stood out the most for you as an optometrist, working with patients? What is that one thing that resonated with you the most? Was it the same that was still there when you got into eye care? Did it evolve? Did it diminish? Did you discover new things? Did you find an interest in different things that perhaps you liked when you entered optometry school in first year at Koffsie?
Yes, so I think just knowing that it touches on the basis of what I'm interested in really made me go there. And when I went to university, that's one part of the story, and then after university it's a whole different world as well. But in university I could learn the different aspects of optometry and see where I think my personality will be attracted to more specific directions, maybe even in optometry. And you just find that something draws your attention more than as one subject more than the other, for instance. But I think what happened, and what I'm very grateful for, the academic knowledge that I gained and the practical knowledge that I gained at university, especially when you see patients that is not in a private sector and has various conditions that you not see on a daily basis in private. But what was really nice to me is that I had a very fast growth, where usually it takes years to decide on the type of practice you want, and I had to also work in practices from while I was still in university. My dad helped me to work at different practices. I worked at franchises, I worked at private practices, I worked with optometrists that specializes in corneal diseases, some in dry eyes, and even I was the type of person that if I saw that the ophthalmologist is coming to Secunda that day, I would rather ask and be denied than not ask. So I asked, can I maybe sit in with surgery? And from university days, in my holidays, I always had the privilege to sit in great practices in Secunda. I grew up in Secunda, and some of them had dispensing labs, some of them had great equipment, some of them had a great optometrist with a soft personality, and I took what I liked from all the practices and I decided to almost build a bear from that.
Wow, I like that, because I went to the same or similar thing, that I started working from first year varsity in different optometric practices, and it exposed me to what I want and what I don't want.
Exactly.
Who I want to become and who I don't want to become.
Yes.
And certain practices modeled that ideal optometric practice
Yes,
or
yes.
ideal optometry personality, and others did the complete opposite. And I was so privileged that that happened early on, long before I even graduated,
Yeah.
because it gives you a baseline as to what trajectory or journey you need to go through.
Exactly.
So what would you then advise to someone who's already in varsity in final year optometry school, who didn't go about that process of working in optometric practices from an earlier age within the department that they're in, and now they're finding themselves under pressure, final year, couple of months left, and they just want to finish? What advice then would you then give that person to then, what can they do now before they enter the marketplace next year?
Yes, I think it's very important that from that place where you leave, you are bombarded with information. You are the new consumer for the companies that source you and the companies that want you to work for them, because we are a profession where there's a need for optometrists. So you are going to be in demand from that moment, and to really take a step back, it's like when you go from primary school to high school, to again just take a humble seat and actually really know that your experience level is 0.
Okay.
And take the knowledge and put it, like the academic knowledge and the practical knowledge, take it with you, but start fresh. And wherever you get yourself into next, you can do your work with confidence, but try to be a sponge and learn as much as possible. So my advice is, don't go for the job offer or the that makes life the easiest for you, if that makes sense. You must know your personality, and you must know, am I a better employee, am I a better employee here, and what is my vision. It can expand later on, but I think you must put yourself into a place where you know, this is the direction I want to go, this is the direction I want to go. And if you want to have stability and structure, then put yourself in a practice where that is the norm. If you want to be challenged, and put yourself in a practice that challenges you, and try not to make a decision too fast about the job opportunity. There will always be a job opportunity for you. Try to think what will make you grow the fastest, or make you be in your live out your personality and your best parts of your aspects of your personality.
I like that, because you kind of like answered it for the follow-up question that I was going to ask you, in terms of, for that young student who has gone through that journey that you went through, I guess your answer still is relevant for that person who started working in optometry practices from first year until final year, who has been exposed to different or multiple practices. At the end of the day, yes, you have an advantage in terms of what would you like and what would you not like, but I like how you answered it in terms of, you need to figure out what works for you.
Yes.
You need to figure out who you are first, what is your element, and that will enable you to thrive. So I like that approach. All right, so I like the way you answered the question in terms of the optometrist who didn't, or the young optometry student who didn't expose themselves to multiple practices from whilst they were studying, to also that optometrist then, or optometry student who has exposed he or himself to multiple practices. The way you answered the question was that they need to figure out what's their element, what makes them come alive, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, and what will be best for them going forward. So I like that. Now the question then I would follow up with would be, because you were then exposed to multiple practices, and when you started working, you also got exposed to multiple practices, different leaders, different bosses. Some bosses are great clinically, but they were horrible bosses. Others are great bosses, but clinically they could be average. Sometimes it's a bit of both.
Exactly.
What was some of your experiences, without sort of like going into specifics, but how did you navigate the different working environments as a young optometrist before deciding that this is what will be the future going forward? Because you moved around, obviously, from practice to practice, franchise to independent. How did you navigate that process?
Decisions. I base my decisions on trying to stay true to the personality that I am. From the start, I tried to be honest with the employer that's wanting me to be part of their practice. So I looked for opportunities, either that as a good clinical challenge for me, and a leader, and I always wanted a mentor that will guide me through these teething problems once you come out of university, transition into the optometrist that you want to become. So I always looked for a leader that will guide me and challenge me clinically, but I loved practice management, and I wanted them to also trust me and engage with me on what it took to get there. And I was very, very privileged that the bad experiences, even with maybe the difficult times in terms of employee relationships, really contributed to my thought processes later.
Okay.
But I had the privilege of great mentorship in specific fields when I was still just out of university, and that really, I tried to suck up I asked questions. I was like almost like a student, but I had to do the work, and I
love that.
Yeah, and I really wanted to like tell me I know nothing, it's fine. I'd want to learn as much as possible. And then I had also I saw practices with the most creative business outlooks, and it enabled me to see that eyecare can be affordable if you are creative as a business owner, to keep your overheads low. And that really, it was one of my core values, was supported in that.
In you then seeking out the mentorship, learning about different aspects of optometry and becoming a sponge, would you say, when you look back, would you say that the employers of the different practices where you were at were open when it came to the finances and the running of the business, or were they more open on the clinical aspect of the work, and they offload perhaps the clinical aspect of the work, but not so much the business aspect of it? Or did you get that?
Definitely more open on the clinical side. I try to also be, and I want to be challenged to be open on all aspects of my business. It must be, the light must shine in, and like I must be open in all aspects. But I think it is very difficult for some people to show you their financial structure, and if they do that, they really are contributing to you growing as a practice manager or whatever. So I did have one employer that really had a lot of experience in practice setup, had multiple big practices, and they had an in-house accountant, and I could go ask the accountant questions. I think most of my knowledge in terms of financing and practical setup of was through my own research. But they did ring bells that made me go look into that, or look into that, or look into that.
What you're saying is so critical, because I think for any young optometrist who's an employee right now, the responsibility, I guess, lies with that person to then go and say, okay, yes, I'm hired as an optometrist to do the clinical work in this practice. I might not necessarily be the practice manager. The practice has a practice manager, or there is no practice manager. You can actually step up your contribution to say, you know what, yes, I'm hired as this, but let me create a role for myself and become the practice manager. Because then once you become the practice manager, you wear a different hat in terms of the day-to-day running of the practice, and no one should actually be encouraging you to do that. That should be on you as a young optometrist in working in a practice, irrespective of the type of practice. So that's so encouraging to hear, that you realize the responsibility lies with you, and you then went about going in that journey. When it comes to then you're getting older now, you're having that experience 4 or 5 years later, and now you're settling in terms of what it is that you want now, and your entrepreneurial aspects come forth now, and you end up wanting to opening up your own practice, be a boss, work with other people, have employees, and all of that type of stuff. Your experience with that, what were some of the trials and tribulations that you had earlier on, and what are some of the things that you would say you did to overcome some of those initial challenges? If you don't mind just giving us a breakdown of some of the challenges that you encountered in you then being more entrepreneurial, or starting on your own practice, what are some of the challenges and how did you overcome them, if you did overcome them?
Yes.
Because I think we have to be honest with these
Yeah,
conversations
yeah.
because we're here to learn from one another. Someone who's sitting in Ghana, someone who's sitting in Namibia could be gathering something that they're busy struggling with, and they hear you speaking so openly about it in this interview, and it could help them become better business leaders, better optometrists or clinicians in their respective countries, including right here in South Africa.
Yes. So definitely, I feel like what can happen in 5 years or 3 years happened for me in 3 to 5 months.
Wow.
Due to, I think, struggles let you grow very fast, and you have to overcome them with solutions. So if you're in a place where you don't have a lot of struggle, you can maybe be in a place for longer. So I had a lot of struggles within my first year was a defining year where I worked in like 5 practices, I think.
Wow.
Different setups, and like really I feel that I did most of what I bounced back on in practice or in my own practice was made up of the experience I had within that year, because of going through so many practices due to various reasons for us having to move away, because of there is things like restraints of trades that make you, if you leave one job, you have to go to a place further away from your comfort zone. And I'm so grateful for that happening to me, because I learned a lot about legal sides of businesses.
Wow.
And what to look out when I sign a contract or don't sign a contract, and not just be over hasty about I must get this job. But due to me maybe not having the knowledge prior to doing that, it made me overcome the challenges that I had. The reality was I must now live with what happened, and I must move. And we took the year, me and my husband. I was married at the end of my 4th year, and we took the year, and
There's nothing. If you are an optometrist in South Africa, there's nothing new to that. I think the abnormal aspect of it is if you get to final year and you don't get engaged or get married. So that one is normal. I don't know what happens in other countries, but in South Africa, that seems to be very normal.
You are like super focused. You're getting the goals. So yeah, we moving around to different places of South Africa, different practices made that I was a few steps ahead in terms of time.
Okay.
I could start my own practice 1 year after exiting optometry, and I think I was one of the first people in my class opening a practice.
Wow.
At age 23.
Wow.
So yeah, I think it could be brave or dumb.
Yeah, it's like a bit of both there, but yeah.
Yeah. So I remember one of my bosses saying, "Don't you go and try to open a practice, because young people have no idea about what's going on and what it takes to make a success out of a practice." And I that encouraged me actually more than dismotivated me. So I made sure that I educate myself as much as possible, prepare as much as possible, work as hard as much as possible to not just show her, but just to also live out my passion. And what happened for me is that I focused on a few things when starting a practice at age 23. I was in a quite affluent suburb in South Africa, Hermanus. I was an incomer. I didn't buy over a practice that was settled.
Sure.
So I took all the
That's
difficult.
risk,
I took all the difficult roads, and So. Oh, sorry. And I took all the difficult roads. So I took the practice setup that you have to start from start. You have to get patient 1. You don't have any fallback on any patients. And also the critics from the other optometrists not wanting another optometrist there. And I think we must invite optometrists to challenge us and be right next to us. And you good at this, I'm good at that. Let's just all work to the good of the people. And I really had to really up my game from the start. I worked in an affluent market with a lot of high-end clientele. There was a lot of needs as well, but I wanted to cater both for those that can barely afford glasses to those that want the best. And I had to fast track my education in terms of lens availability, lens options, frame options, because of the market that I was in. And I really wanted to have the lowest overhead so that I don't put a burden on me and my husband. We had a small fund where my husband, he was a little bit older than me, so we could use his savings. That's one of the biggest factors in opening a practice. So to have a little bit of capital, you don't need as much as you think. But for me at that stage, I needed 300,000. I didn't go for all the best things. I settled on some things, but the things that was important, I really made sure is part of the practice. So to give a boutique experience and people come in and they're like, wow, this must have cost the world.
Wow.
Just because of the way you presented in yourself was really what I aimed for. And that was I worked as the receptionist, so I had to save on a lot of things for us not to put ourselves in a position where we overspend on the practice until it is grown up to a certain place, and then I could
I like the honesty of what you're saying, because those are things that people are facing when they're opening up practices, let alone not even buying an existing practice. You started from patient 1.
I remember being so nervous when that first patient coming in.
Wow. And did you get to start a family during all of this? Because from what I understand, you've got 3 babies now.
I think
and you're still very young. So when you then start a family and navigating the challenges of being parents and still being a business owner, was there support? Because this, we have to be honest about these conversations. Did you have a structure or a system around you that involved other people playing their part in giving you the support that you need? Or was you and your husband just the two of you and you had to figure it out?
With everything going on.
What kind of support did you guys have beyond the financial support that you said you needed as initial startup capital? What kind of support did you have in the process?
Yes, it's a very important and honest conversation that I want to have. That because I was so young, after I got pregnant with we planned to get pregnant, and after I think I was 2 years into practice, I always said this is my baby, and after 2 years I could relax a little bit
and get another one,
and then I got my real baby. And I think really something to look out for in a personality that just goes. I didn't actually know the physical burden that the pregnancy was going to put on me specifically.
Sure.
Because of being so sick throughout my pregnancy. I had to really structure the appointments and everything so carefully so that I could be okay. I was in hospital a lot for dehydration and stuff like that, and that puts pressure on your practice because you're not there to bring an income. So I didn't know that's going to happen, so I had to work around it, and the Lord has really been good. I could be at, like, the day that was fully booked, I was okay. The day that was quiet or the people cancelled, I really felt terrible. So my first experience was a very hard experience in terms of coping afterwards with being actually like drained and burnt out, because I just like went from after university, and then actually like hitting rock bottom in terms of my own energy, and how especially my husband and my parents and friends and family just helped me to keep everything together after that year and just get through that first initial year after my firstborn. And I think because it was so tough and so I really needed all the support I could get.
So both you and I are fully aware of how mental health challenges have dominated society all over the world. Through all of that, where was your mental health?
It was at a very low place, and for me, it was. I'm so thankful for my husband and my parents and everyone that could see the red lights coming. I can go and not realize that I'm actually already in a high alert level, and then only when it's crash boom bang I realize, I must stop. And for me it was like I was crash boom bang poof. I didn't know my limits and my boundaries, and I really had to it took so much longer because I didn't see the red lights myself, and I was just like going, and I really learned so much about how to look after my own mental health from there on forward. Because I knew the big impact it had on especially my family, seeing me in such a depleted state and such a burned out state. I really never wanted to put myself or my family through it. It was really hard on me to think that I was so okay when putting up my baby as the practice, but now my first baby is there, and I feel that I'm not.
So this
So
your
fully
challenges came with your first child.
Yes, yes.
What are some of the things that you then did to get help?
Yes, we went to I don't know where the money came from. We tried everything and
Wow.
everyone. We went to all the healthcare professionals to get me, yes, just out of this anxiety state and burnout state, because it's like when your cortisol levels are high for too long, and then all your systems crash. And just to get someone with, there's a lot of good healthcare professionals, but for me, it just almost exaggerated the problem.
Sure.
Trying all the medications and all the remedies that they gave really just made it worse and worse, and made me feel even more anxious that we, after a year, couldn't get it solved. And it was really a big problem. I had the ability, and I still have the ability, even though I'm sick or not at a good place, when I walk into the practice, I can focus for that 8 hours, and no one will know about what's going on. And it's not that I was fake. I focused on my job, and then afterwards I could try to get the answer to my health concerns.
You bring up a very important point, that the show must go on.
Exactly.
At the end of the day,
Yes.
you are the one who has to pay the salaries. The practice needs to keep
Yes.
going. So how, you being in that state, you then having to get healthy again, mentally, spiritually, physically, and all of that, raise a baby, still be a wife, have this new practice going on. How did that influence patient care? Knowing that you've got this new practice, that you need to make sure that it not only functions well, but it makes a mark
Yes.
in adding value to the community here in Hermanus. How did you then, or how did patient care get influenced? What was your approach
Yes.
to patient care that made you stand out as the optometrist of choice to the people that needed visual solutions to their eye care problems?
I think it gave me a lot of empathy
Okay.
for difficult situations. Because I could be strong in the practice, I just definitely had much more empathy for the patient there. Because I was in the situation where I went to healthcare professionals and didn't feel I get the level of service I
Wow.
would love, it actually made me realize that this people is booking an appointment with me for a specific reason, and I mustn't just go about what I'm thinking. It made me really aware of what's going on. I think I indulged more into my work at that stage because I felt safe there.
Sure.
And I felt in control there, where I didn't feel in control like with my health at all. But it made me aware of a lot of things that I think I miss if I'm so busy and just everything's going good.
Wow, so that was a good thing then.
Yes, I think it was
inadvertently for
yes,
your practice,
the
in terms of
patients didn't
you
feel-
gave something that not a lot of optometrists can be able to give to their patient, because then it's as if every patient is personal for you.
Yes, and I made specific time for each patient. I tried never to overbook, and I really wanted to let them feel I want to. If they were someone that's busy in and out and they don't want all of this care, it's fine. I wanted to personalize their experience for what they need, and let them feel like the purpose they came from. I exceeded that.
So that was important for you, that
Yes.
you wanted to figure out, why did this person come to your practice? So it moved beyond just, I need to see 10 patients a day,
Oh, yeah.
prescribe glasses,
Yeah.
and at the end of the month, this is how much we need to be making. So
Yeah.
you literally are saying then that it was personal with regards every single patient. That you wanted to know, why is this one here, and how am I going to exceed expectations for each and every single person.
Yes.
I love that, and I think that's something that can actually set you apart as a business leader, in having or being intentional with regards exceeding expectations. I wanted to ask you, do you think that in eye care we have enough community support? And when I say community support, as in amongst ourselves as colleagues, do you find that, I don't know with your guys' generation, but with my generation of optometrists in my class, I don't think we have developed a community of optometrists around one another that plays a role in elevating one another to another level, supporting one another, holding each other accountable, asking each other help. Do you guys have that?
Yes, I think that it's a very difficult answer because I think we could have been much more to each other. We could have meant much more to each other, but I think there's a saying that your strengths creates competition and your weaknesses create community.
Wow.
And I think
I like that.
the fact that everyone wants to show that they are okay and they're making the mark made us not share what we could have shared. I think I tried to be very honest about my struggles, and that attracted people that wanted classmates, peers, and I tried to really not be that like I want to be isolated and not show my bad and only show my good. I wanted to show that I'm human, and I wanted interaction with other optometrists.
Wow.
So I always tried.
So
to
you had
have
that. So you sort of like you were open about your journey.
Yes.
Because I think that yes, we have to be strong and all of that, but vulnerability is such a powerful tool, especially if you have people that you can trust that are in the same boat as you. You know, when you have that entrepreneur who is doing their own thing, or that business leader or that professional that you can bounce off ideas to, be open with them to say, hey, I'm doing this, I'm going through this, and this is my challenges, these are the opportunities that I'm facing, and all of that. And they also share their own experiences. It helps build a community, and I think that's one thing that I would encourage the next generation of optometrists to really, as in your class, those 3 or 4 optometry students that you really connect with, build a community around you and get mentorship, people that have been where you aspire to be, so that your journey, they're not going to go through the same mistakes that we went through. But if they do, they've got better support structures than what perhaps your guys' generation had or what my generation had. What do you love the most about eyecare right now?
I'm so passionate. I tell you, I told Obi yesterday when we got him at the airport that like my first love is the Lord and my husband and my kids, but I've got like a burning passion for eyecare. So it's so difficult to go into it, because if I go into that field, I'm like, oh, I love it if I go into that field. But I definitely have found a great interest in behavioral optometry and treating patients with a behavioral outlook. Even though it's just a special interest in South Africa, I think it's very important, and my patient, I think, really enjoyed the engagement in terms of how did you get to the point to get this prescription or that prescription, and how you can do to prevent it from worsening in terms of just behavior, and just looking at prescriptions in interesting ways. And the topographer that I later on got just like also helped me to correlate some of the thoughts I saw and the trends I saw in optometry. So I really enjoyed corneal disease, development of prescriptions, and how to treat. Even though I'm not the person treating it, I would love us to collaborate with ophthalmologists in advising them, do this cataract surgery in this way because the behavior of the patient is going to be better in this, or just working closely together.
You're speaking like it's as if I'm starting to pick up that. Is general optometry going to survive? Or is niche optometry services the future of eyecare?
I think we are going to be replaced. If you're a general optometrist, I think our service is going to be computerized or something. And I think if you really want to have a differential advantage, is your knowledge can't be replaced. So don't just get a prescription that's going to maybe be replaceable. Don't just give glasses that's going to be online. The stuff that people will come to you for, focus on that, and contributing to the patients that they trust you more than what they see online or what they're going to be bombarded with in the future of eye care. So definitely niche optometry is the way forward, and it doesn't need to be niche and expensive, but value for money.
I like that. I like that, because a lot of the times people think that niche is expensive, but it's not even that. It's just a matter of what's your differential value that you bring to the table, and that is what's going to set you apart. I absolutely like that. Do you find that patients though have bought into those niche services? Because I have picked up that during COVID, practices that really did well were the ones that were actually providing niche services. And it's as if there's a trust relationship between
Definitely.
patient and practice.
Yeah.
Do you think that we educating patients enough on those niche related services, or it's sort of like we in it and then expect the patient to sort of like just
Come back.
and all of that? Are we intentional about our niche services? That's basically the question.
I try to always in practice be open and honest about what I never talk down what's going up in the market, but just to let them be educated that if they choose this, they choose this structure for a reason. If they choose me for a reason. If they choose this for a reason. So I always was intentional on explaining them why my practice is set up in a specific way, why I provide this, why I chose certain lenses in my practice, why I chose certain eyewear frames, and how I wanted them to be educated and then make a choice. Do they need my service or do they need the service of someone else? And I think they could. I had so many people, and it was so refreshing to say that I never knew this, and I've never had so many people saying I've never had this experience. I always thought optometry is just about getting your prescription and 15 minutes later you're out, and them really like it was to open their eyes, not just physically by seeing, but just also like intangibly opening their eyes to the world of optometry that's much wider than just being a dispenser almost to. We need good dispensing qualities, but not just give one service.
Wow, I like that because it really you're so clear on what sets you apart, and when you're clear on what sets you apart, it doesn't really matter how many practices are around you.
I never,
because you then know that yes, the community that I'm in, this is the value that I'm bringing to the community. These are the patients that are going to come to my practice, and they're going to be coming to the practice because of this type of value that I bring. How do I make sure that I communicate the value effectively and efficiently? How do I ensure that when they come here, they experience the value and then they leave to go and tell their friends, their family, their colleagues? Then it becomes an ongoing process. Then it's never limited to, oh, that one does this, and so forth. So I really, really like that approach. You're actually teaching me so much stuff that I'm realizing that when we go to the universities right now, we need to educate the students on certain aspects that you are highlighting that are critical to everyday practice. So I'm very, very sort of like, you've enlightened me in so many ways. I like that, and that's top-notch stuff. I really, really enjoyed this interview. What's the one thing that you would encourage practice owners right now who are in practice, whether male or female, are faced with various challenges right now? COVID was really bad on them, but they're still passionate about optometry, but they're frustrated about where they are at right now. But they still want to grow their businesses. They still want to add value to their community, but business is not happening at the level at which they want it to happen. What message of encouragement would you have for that type of optometrist?
Yes, I think COVID showed us that difficulty leads to creativity in the right people. So if you are a creative being, that the solutions you can come up with in difficult times is so refreshing, and it's stuff that your practice actually needs all along, but you never have time to implement it. To think of new ways of saving money on your overheads. Encouraging patients to just come, even if they only have a little, and just for the interim until they have recovered from, for instance, COVID, just get through it with me. We take more entry-level products and get them to just to not show patients away because of things that change. So to behave creative and be creative about your saving possibilities and where you can expand and bring more income into your practice. I think it's very important to be creative in difficult times.
Wow, I like that. That is so powerful. And I'm encouraged by that your creativity levels get to actually grow and increase during difficult periods. So that's a message for you, ophthalmologist, optometrist, optical dispenser, sitting in whichever country that you are in the African continent. This was a great episode. Where can people connect with you online?
I think on LinkedIn, I'm currently available on LinkedIn. I'm in a transition phase in my personal career.
Wow.
So, but
LinkedIn
on
is a great platform
yeah.
because that's where we and I met, and
Yes.
it really connects us as eye professionals. And make sure you connected with the Eye Africa Media platform. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and also make sure that you check us out on the different social media platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, do check out our website and make sure that you're connecting with various content that we have from different parts of the African continent. Until the next episode, take care, everyone.